Right, playing for the Basse dance. This first picture, I have to say at the outset, there are very few illustrations from the period. We're talking about the 15th century essentially. There are very few illustrations which are generally agreed to be depicting a Basse dance. There are a lot of illustrations of people playing pipe and tabor and other instruments and people seemingly prancing around, but it's very difficult to be reasonably clear, reasonably certain that they are a Basse dance. And this is one of the few. It's from a manuscript from 1480, which is currently in the Pierpont Morgan Library in New York. And it shows a taborer on the right of the scene, two dancers apparently performing, and two other couples who are probably just waiting to dance. So that's the interpretation, though it is possible that the couple in the middle is also performing the dance. Having said that, I think we shall go straight away to try and show that video, Steve, and that'll give us a better idea of exactly what we're talking about.
Do that. If you do a stop share, or I'll stop your share,
Yep.
and then I can line up the video.
Thank you for that, Steve. Right, that was a dance called El Gioiosa, and the occasion of the performance was a little workshop that we did with the Lute Society about 18 months ago. And we had a number of dancers there, and the intention was to show the lute accompanying various dances from that early period, but as well an opportunity for the pipe and tabor to show how it actually happened. So there. That was Peter Greener and Kate Page from a dance group. Which one are they in, Barbara? Dance. I think it's Dance Royale. Anyway, that's just to show you what it was like. If I can share screen now, Steve, is that? And I can show a couple of. Or do I just hit that? No.
You should be able to do that now, yeah?
If I just click share screen, go back to there, and there we are. I'll just drop them down. Okay, that dance was written, composed by Guglielmo de Breo, who worked at the court of Federico da Montefeltro around the 1450s, and he was probably the top dancing master in Italy at that time. The Federico was well known for his sponsorship of the arts, and he had a very lavish court, which was primarily funded by running a stable of mercenary soldiers. So it's quite an intriguing relationship. That's what sponsored all his artistic work. Notably, within his studiolo in Urbino, there is a wonderful intarsia inscription, or what we call it, illustration of pipe and tabor. And I was able to actually measure it against against a photograph of myself standing by the cabinet, and it looks to be a pipe in G. So much for that. If you want to see it, it is actually in the Metropolitan Museum in New York, and it is a most fabulous piece of carpentry, cabinet making. So that is El Gioioso Rostiboli, composed by Guglielmo. Now, although it is not a bass dance as such, it is the Italian version, a bassa danza. In fact, it's slightly more than that. You'll notice that towards the end, it breaks into a couple of other different rhythms, one of which is a saltarello, and the last one is the piva. And I'll come on to those later. So it's actually a ballo from Italy, but the first section is a bass dance or a bassa danza, and it's very closely aligned to the bass dance, which was primarily based in the Burgundian places, that is the regions of the Netherlands through Belgium and so on. In the 15th century, the domains of Philip the Good and his predecessors and successors. Going on. Oh, hang on. Why doesn't it click?
Are you using the left and right, the right keys on your?
Yeah.
So sometimes you need to just tap with the cursor, tap the screen, and then use the keys, or tap.
Got it.
Yep.
This next slide again is quite possibly a bass dance, and it shows a group at the court of Maximilian, again around about 1500. It's accompanied by a pipe and tabor and one of those strange shawm things with the extra bellows attached. So an interesting picture from that point of view. They're also in masquerade costume. So whether they're actually doing the steps of a bass dance or not is difficult to say. However, Maximilian spent much of his early life at the court of Burgundy. He married Mary of Burgundy. So he would have been very familiar with that style of dance. So it is quite likely that it was closely associated to the bass dance as we're going to describe it. Let's try this again. Here's another one. This is French, same period, 15th century at some point, and it's a taborer playing for a group dancing what may well be a bass dance, but of course it's very difficult to tell because we have no indication of movement, steps, or anything like that. This is a good one. Now this, Jez, I think it was mentioned this morning that pipe and tabor was of lowly origins and perhaps should have stayed there. This shows we have down in the foreground three musicians, pipe and tabor on the right, a harpist in the middle, and a lute player on the left. The context, it's the wedding of Edward II to Isabella of France, which took place in 1308. The painting, however, dates from a much later period, so it's a sort of celebration of a piece of important French history. This marriage was very much an alliance. We didn't hate the French quite so much at that time, but it was to show the alliance of Edward with Isabella. The important thing, in fact, the only thing, there was one other thing. The first thing is, of course, it shows the high status of Taborers in this period, 14th and 15th century. They were very well paid at the court of Burgundy. The other thing, of course, is the hats. I could remove my hat from my Federico hat. And replace it with my proper English hat, or at least Flemish. The previous one was Italian. So instead of doing Basse dancers, we're now going to get to Flemish. Oh, sorry, it keeps jerking. Right. What we have for the Basse dance, the primary record it occurs in two main manuscripts. One is called Toulouse. It was published by the publisher is actually called Michel Toulouse, and it was called L'art et instruction de bien danser, how to dance well, the art and basically, yes, how to dance well. The other is called the Brussels manuscript, and I'll see if I can get that. No, back, forward, no. I think it's further down the list. This is one of the principal sources. Now, the problem, as you can see, is up here on the right, we have the music and some little script underneath, which shows the steps of the dance. And the problem is how to decode this. Now, fortunately, this is something that has been studied by musicologists for some time. Does like to jump around, and I'll see if I can. Sorry, I'm not sure if that. Can I get that down? Is the gallery obscuring the music notation below?
For me, looking at it, I'm seeing it a very clear image.
Oh, okay. Well, look, I'll go with that. I really only need the first line anyway. So you can see that what we have here at the top of the screen is the original notation. At the bottom, we have it translated, transcribed into conventional, well, not almost conventional, modern notation. Underneath, the little letters correspond to the letters again up in underneath the music notation in the top right, and they indicate the steps of the dance. The problem, as you can see, is how do you begin to take this sequence of completely undifferentiated notes, how do you take that and begin to make some sensible accompaniment from it? This translation was done some time ago, actually, in 1971. Richard Rastall, who I think at that time was professor of music up in Leeds. So they did a very nice job of producing. This book is still occasionally available on books or somewhere. It is well out of print. However, I was going to say, yes, I think in my notes I have given an indication of where you can actually see an online facsimile of the original. The hard copy, the real original, resides in the what is it? It's the physician. Is it the physicians? The the Royal College of Physicians down there in Lincoln's Inn Fields. Surgeons. Is it surgeons? You sure? I thought it was physicians. No, I think it's physicians. They have it. Now, to begin, how on earth did they get to the point of writing that sequence of notes? And this is our first little piece of interactive tuition. This program is intended to be written. The dance was called Fiesa Mariae. It so happens that we have various versions of the song, and the interesting thing is, how do you get from the song, the popular song Fiesa Mariae, traditional French 15th century tune, to that sequence of notes? So what I would quite like, in fact I would very much like, is I'll play the tune, and then those of us then we can all join in, whether you're muted or not. The words are there on the left. Now the bottom line is missing on mine, but it's okay. Anyway, the general tenor, it's essentially, to me, it looks like a drinking song. Girls about to wed, please don't get married. You'll only create jealousy, and he won't love you forever, and your heart will be out of joint, and you'll have a terribly miserable time. So it's a perfect sort of subject for a drinking song. So what I would like to do as our first interactive exercise, I'll play the tune on my D pipe, which I think is a reasonable key for us to sing in, and we can all sing along in our very best Burgundian accent. Means you can get away with almost anything in that. And this is the beginning. All together, let's have at least one or two unmuted, otherwise I'm singing on my own. Andy, you look like a goer. Right. One, two, one. Fiesa Mariae, ne vous mariez Basse jalousie, jamais ne vous ne lui, au cœur joyeux ignorant, Fiesa Mariae,
ne vous mariez
Maria. Bravo! Give yourself a big clap. So that's the original song. We also have, based on that song, a very nice chanson, 3 parts, and another in 4 parts. There is an even more famous one by Binchois. It has the same name and has the same words, but it's a very different tune. This is the tune on which our previous bass dance is based. And if I play the bass dance, you can see that the bass dance actually outlines that tune. So I will play the notes. So that's the sequence of notes of the bass dance, but it's still not a musical form that anybody would actually want to dance to. So we need to look for more clues as to how it might have been interpreted. So I will go on to the next, see what I've got there. Yes, that's the tune, going back. Oh, there's the bass dance, right. And I think that went round with my notes. We'll come back to that. What we have, our first little clue is actually from a much later period. It's Arbeau's orchesography, where in the beginning of the book he gives an outline of various taboring rhythms, and this is the one that he associates with the Basse dance. And so it goes, as you can see. I'll try and play it. About that. The question arises, I mean, that's a fairly straightforward sort of rhythm, and one can actually improve on that to make it rather more interesting. But sticking with that for the moment, the obvious question is, how do you determine the tempo? And at that point, we come to another interesting aspect. This is the one. Yeah. In many of the instruction manuals, it is quite clearly stated that the Basse dance tempo is half as fast as the piva. And the question might be, how fast do you play the piva? Well, generally speaking, you play it as fast as it's reasonable to dance to. Now, I'm hoping that someone can join with me in playing the piva. This is the piva Petit Rien, which should be on your folders. It is in any case in Jerry's wonderful books, if I can find it. Here it is. No, it's not. I've lost it.
It's also on the website. There's the 4 pieces that you've listed. They are available for download on the Winter Warmer links page of repertoire page of the website.
Thanks, Steve. So piva is important in understanding where the Basse dance sits within things. The piva was the old name of the bagpipe. So this was a fairly rustic, a folk dance, but it forms the basis of the whole sort of structure of the dance vocabulary at that period. So what I'm going to suggest we do is collectively have a go through this, and even see if we can master it. I'll just check that I've got my D pipe, I think. What I'll do, I'll just show you, I'll play through to the first double bar so you can get an idea. I won't play it. Sorry, got my thread twisted. Okay, that's great. I could hear that. Terrific. It's a very nice little tune. It works very well on the pipe. I can't remember what the original pitch was, but on the little D pipes, it's fine. And it's a very simple dance. It's very one that children can easily master. The tempo, that's a sort of comfort. I don't think you could play it a little faster, maybe, but that's the sort of dance tempo that works. You could play it faster, but not. It doesn't make it any better. It doesn't improve it. Play it faster. So we'll take that as our primary piva tempo. The problem then is, given that the Basse dance is half that tempo, we should be able to determine how fast that should be. So we're going diddly diddly dee, 1 2 1 2. Now you've got to divide 1 2 1 2 1 into 3. 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1, like that, and that will give us the tempo for the Basse dance rhythm. So we're going now from diddly diddly dee diddly 1 2 2 and 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 dum da 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 dum da 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 da. That's actually a quite comfortable. It's quite a fast beat, but it is quite comfortable to play one-handed. Now that's what So I'm going to go back. So that's the essential piece of that little bit of instruction. Go back. So we've got this beat. So dum, da, da, da. That gives us the tempo in which we're going to play these this little rhythm from our bow. That's the tempo. Why don't we try that? Why don't we try just the taboring? I'm sort of trying to make this as interactive as I reasonably can. I mean, things never sound terribly good on Zoom, but we'll do the best. So we'll do the taboring for the piva taboring, and then we'll see if we can break into bass dance taboring. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not the way. The actual physical constraint is the actual tempo at which it is comfortable to play this little transcribed rhythm. That sets the tempo of the bass dance, and in turn it would determine how fast you should be playing the piva. So that relationship between piva, bass dance, very important. Going from there back to our original tune, this one, Fiers Marie. Now, on each of these, it's in 6/4, so each of these long notes, each of these dotted semibreves, we're going to play as 6 crotchets, but we'll use Arbo's taboring rhythm. So the tune we get, and I'll play 3 little lead-in notes. But I need to extend it. I think I messed out. So for each note, to the double bar. So you could see how that would extend right to the whole thing, and we're beginning to get something that might possibly be danceable too. So if you can pick up your D pipes, let's see if we can jointly, I'm not sure, we can try it with one or more. I don't know if Andy, if you want to try it with you live as well. I think we've got such a delay on the circuits that it may come adrift.
The time delay will make it awful. I think it'd be better.
Yeah. Okay. We won't do it, but I'll assume you're all playing along with me, whatever, and we'll see how it goes. So I'll go right to the end. The interesting thing to note is that this is actually the easiest of the bass dance tenors to remember. It's in 4 sets of 8 bars, 8 notes, which match very closely the original tune, Fiers Marie. So we ought to be able to get right to the end, and with luck, I should be able to remember how it all goes without trying to read the music. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hang on. The problem, as any of you try to play through along with that, is it's very difficult to breathe. Where am I? It's very difficult to breathe. So you need to break it up. And the way to break it up is to go back and look at, we have notation for the dance that we showed on the video. And I'll get to that. We've got the rhythm, got that. And this is the one. This is the Basse dancer section of the little dance that was shown on the video. The notation, the original notation is there up in the top of the screen, and the transcription is down below, and it makes for quite a nice little tune. But it's basically the long notes broken up, Basse dance rhythm, but you've got linking notes between those main notes. So it's a sort of it's a sort of improvisation, not improvisation, but it's a you're developing towards a kind of improvisation on the the bass notes, which are undistinguished. And so this is where we get this tune now. Right, let's get my starting note. I'll give 6 in. That's the end of the Basse dance section. It then changes tempo into another. But although that was following more or less, apart from the occasional glitch, I'm just not used to playing these things on such a long pipe. Apart from that, you can actually vary that a lot more with ornamentation, and I think you can probably see how that might go. So I'll just play the first few bars. You could do all sorts of much more elaborate things with it than that. So that's an idea of where you next go with the original Basse dance, the Thierse Marie. So something along those lines would give the beginnings of a basic tune that one might think about creating as an improvisation. But you can take it much further in the use of divisions, ornamentation, and so on. So that's the basis of it. Fiers Marie. The one other point I would like to make about it is, I go back to here. If you can see the little note, the little letters underneath the tune, we've got these actually indicate the steps of the dance. So there's an R, a reverenza. We then have a B as a branle. SS is 2 singles. D stands for double. So you've got 3 double steps, 2 singles and 1 note. A ripresa, which is a step back, and then 3 of those, then a branle again. It's characteristic of these dances that they always proceed towards a branle as the marker of the phrase. What you will notice is that the phrasing of the dance is quite different from the phrasing of the music. The music is phrased in a very straightforward way, is as 8 notes. So if you count up to 8 notes, we get to what I've notated as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It is that C repeated, but that occurs on a riverenza, which would not be appropriate to end the phrase for the dancers. However, the musicians don't worry about that. Their main concern is to make sure that they get exactly the right number of notes in the whole sequence. And the sequence is 32 notes, 4 lots of 8. You remember the tune from your session in the pub, so you can remember the whole thing via that sort of process. You don't worry about what the dancers are doing at that point, but this is one of the subtleties of it. Although you're watching the dancers to make sure that you are in step and that they're not running away with you rhythmically or something, you can't actually phrase, unlike later dances, which are often very much phrased in an 8-bar phrase or something very simple. In the Basse dance, the phrasing of the dance doesn't fit with the phrasing of the music. Okay, I'll go on from there and see what else I have. Fiers Marie, Drum from Folk Song, Tabering Rhythm, Basse Dance Rhythm, Piva we've done, and this is the Gioiosa. And it might be nice actually to just have a go at playing this.
We did this one.
Did we do this? Have we done this one?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Let's go on to the next one. What I haven't done is actually, unless anybody wants to, does anybody want to actually give us a demonstration of what they might manage with the Fiers Marie just over the first 8 bars or so? Any takers on this? No? And Andy's looking willing.
Well, I'll have a go. So it's the Fiers Marie, is it?
Fiers Marie, and it's the idea is to keep that bass dance rhythm going, and then just playing the first 8 notes, but breaking them up with little divisions and linking passages. See what you might come up with, just as a little exercise in how to begin playing bass dance.
Right. Apologies. This is all going to fall apart, I think, because I haven't.
Never mind. Well, we won't hold it against you. It's actually.
Okay. Yes, it did fall completely apart.
No, that's fine. That's fine, Andy. I mean, it's kind of.
I hadn't learnt it in the pub. That was the problem.
What?
I hadn't learnt it in the pub.
Oh, I see. Right. Because I'm trying. The great problem, in fact, I think why Taborers were paid so well was because they had memorized all these. There are about 70 of these bass dance tunes, and that was their job to remember, because nothing was written down. The books we have, the other one, which I will show in a minute, is actually it is just so valuable. It's made in silver and gold.
Steve will have a go.
Sorry?
Steve was willing to have a go.
Oh, okay. Yes, do.
Oh, wait, now I've lost track of where I am.
That's great. Yes, that's the idea, that you just have to take this rather undifferentiated sequence of notes and divide it up, link the notes, add in ornaments, and eventually you can get to make something quite reasonable out of it that dancers are willing to do. On my more favoured instruments, I can actually perform a little bit better. Nothing actually sounds terribly good over Zoom, but you get the general idea. Thank you for that. That's great. Going on. Yes, I was saying the role of the taborer was actually a sort of memory bank. This is the other manuscript that I mentioned. It's called the dance book of Marguerite d'Autriche from the late 15th century. It's a unique copy, and it's beautifully done in silver lettering. Silver. The notes are painted out in silver, and the other lettering, the steps and so on, are in gold, and it's all on black parchment. So obviously a very fine work of art, which no musician would ever be allowed even to look at, let alone touch or play from. It's far away from that. So it was. I imagine, or it's generally believed, it was put down as a record of the dances which were done at the court of Burgundy during the time of Philip the Good. That is mid to late 15th century. So the taborers, as I was saying, what they were paid for, and they were paid very well, was to know all the dances, because the key thing was that you ended up in time with the dancers on the last step. So they are dancing with these very uneven phrases, 7, 6, 5, 11, and they've got to end up on the final note, or you have to end up on the final note as they do their final brawl. And if you don't, you're in trouble. There are legal cases on record where the taborer has been severely reprimanded. I'm not sure whether he's put in the stocks or even in prison for having played the wrong dance. I think he said that he played Fiers Marie instead of the one which was requested, and got into terrible trouble. So that was the role of the taborer. He also knew the steps for the dance and was generally most likely to be a dance master as well. So he would act as teacher for the dancing, and we have several slightly later records in the early 16th century of taborers or dance masters who also played the pipe and tabor. Now, going on, this one, I will come back to this. This is the famous Danse de Clèves, which also appears in Terry's compendium, and we'll try and do that. In fact, we'll have a go at that now. The drum has become very. Now this is a well-known one. It actually appears in the final pages of the manuscript, and if I just go back, it doesn't really look at all like the earlier ones. I should have put in one of the earlier bass dance, which tends to have just the long notes strung out, but this one looks as though it actually has a bit of a tune, as it indeed does. So this is the dance, but we're going to, because it is a bass dance, the tempo should be roughly the same as previously. However, it actually moves a little bit, the notes move a little bit faster, so one's inclined to play a little bit slower. If you play it at the previous tempo, it does become a little bit unmanageable. But it's possible, but it's not. I don't think it. So, which makes me think the style of dance, we do know that the style of dance, the steps and the pattern on the floor were actually quite different from that of the earlier ones, which are very slow, very sedate. This is a little bit different. So it's not a very good example of the standard bass dances as they appear in both those manuscripts, the Toulouse and the Brussels. But it's a nice tune, great tune, and it's in Terry's book. Get Terry's book, and you can have access to all of this. The next, right now, how are we on time? Oh right. Oh right. Right. Our time's nearly up. So what we've got. I'm planning to end at 2:03, and then there's time for discussion. This is we end up back with Arbo. We started with Arbo because he gave us the clue as to what the rhythm pattern for bass dance was. We end up back with Arbo in this famous piece, Jouissance vous donnerai, which he labels bass dance. And then you look at it and you think, yes, it looks though it might be, but rather more like the Danse de Clèves, and there's a lot of busy notes going on there. But then you see that the reverence actually takes twice as long, or each of these steps, the two simple steps, two singles for instance, take 4 of those bars. So if you're beating it in the comfortable tempo that we had, and I'll take the line where it does the singles. Okay, I can't read that. That is a reasonable tempo to play it at, but the dance is half as slow again as in the other dances, and they were quite slow. So this is something of a conundrum. I was trying to find somewhere on YouTube where there was a demonstration of this dance being done at the specified rate, but I couldn't find one. So it's a puzzle, and I don't know what the solution is. What had happened, this is dated, of course, late in the 16th century, and he was describing the dances of his youth, which may have well been 1530s, early 16th century. I think he may have simply got it wrong, is a possibility. but I don't know. It needs further explanation. However, with that, I think that's all I have. It is indeed, and that brings my little discourse on the trials and tribulations of playing for the Basse dance. It's sort of an indication of the beginning and how you would actually begin to build up some skill in playing within this repertoire. But it's a lot to do with keeping the rhythms going and learning and practicing division, so you actually get something workable. Okay, thank you very much. Questions, I think, is probably. Do I stop sharing? Oh, yes, there we are. Right.
I've done that for you. Right.
Thank you, Steve.
I can see Andy's got a question.
Okay, so I'm sort of thinking it's possible to do those singles with a big sort of rise and fall. That's kind of, I think that might be how Diana Cruikshank taught me how to do it, but I might be misremembering that.
Andy, is that the singles in the Jouissance, the arbo one? Yeah. I think what you have to do, because they're incredibly slow, you have to do them with a considerable amount of presence and display. So you're really dragging it out. I mean, the hat is one thing, but you've actually got to convey a sort of sense of presence and all of that because of the tempo that's implied by the dance. Definitely rising and falling and probably glaring at the audience as well.
They would have had a lot of core stability, wouldn't they? Because they would have been practicing their dances every day. So they would have been.
They would have had a lot of that. Yes. So this is phrase. The other thing, of course, is by the time of Arbo, it was moving down from the court. You remember the earlier pictures I showed were dancers at the court of Maximilian. Arbo was not necessarily writing for a court audience, but more the aspiring middle classes. So they may have been more inclined to, I suppose, to show off their fine costumes, their hats, their sense of presence and all of that. So something like that. I would say it certainly can be danced at that very slow tempo, but it is an interesting factor within the arrangements. Yeah.
I've got one more question, actually. I seem to remember you saying at one point that there was a possible link between memory feats of remembering the Basse dance and tournaments. Can you remind me, or maybe I got that wrong?
The tournament, just a plug for a fantastic book that has recently been published, is the Fredal manuscript of Maximilian, and it shows there are about 180 or more illustrations. 2/3 of them are of the tournament, chaps falling off their horses or bashing each other with swords. A third of them, about 60 illustrations, are of the Basse dance, of dancing or moriscos. I'll just see if I can show you. It's quite interesting. It's not show it from the beginning. Oh, no, I'm not sure if I get it. I think I know I'd have to say. I won't. The thing is that the tournament was very much coupled with dancing, and the dancing could be of various different types. It could be the morisco, some kind of masquerade, or it could be a straight dance, just simply a Basse dance or so on. And these are all beautifully illustrated in this book. It's the Fredal manuscript, which is quite well known, but has not been very accessible up until now. So you can see what the stylistic thing was about. There was an awful lot of very fancy hats and costumes and so on. So they were very much into that. By the time you get to Arbo, so this is early 16th century. By the time you get to Arbo, late 16th century, the the dancers had moved down a class towards, as I was saying, the upwardly aspiring middle classes, and they were slightly different, I think, in their approach to it. Um, it's to some extent borne out by the illustrations in Arbo itself, where they're more, although they're courtly, they don't seem to be quite as high court as in some of the earlier illustrations. So tournaments, very important. That's the other side of the dance.
Bill?
Yes.
Bill, can I ask a question?
You can, yes.
Where does the term come from, Basse dance? Why was it called Basse? It's not about bass, right? Where does the term come from? Do you know?
Well, there's a lot of theories about it. It's generally thought that bass is generally low, means low. So the easiest explanation, say, it refers to a dance which stays low to the ground. So the steps are quite, there's not a lot of jumping about in a bass dance. The steps are very slow, very measured, close to the ground. So that would be bass. The other thing is, there's one of the other principal music groups is the alta cappella, the high wind, which is the shawms, sackbuts, and so on. And it's very questionable whether they actually played for the bass dance. They're too loud. There's a mismatch between the dynamics of this very slow, very stately dance and this rather raucous sound which you generally get from shawms. So that was the high, and they played, of course, for the high dancers, the saltarelli and jumping about and all those things that happened late in the evening. And piva, saltarello, so on. So the division between high and low with instruments was important. So the low instruments, the bass instruments, pipe and tabor is a little bit in the middle, but it is quiet compared to a shawm. It is very quiet. But the other low bass instruments are the fiddle, harp, lute, things like that. So it fits within that domain. So it could have been a bass dance as being associated with the bass instruments, just as the high dancers, the saltarelli, the jumping around dancers, associated with the loud wind. My theory.
We have played for Basse dance on shawms reasonably successfully, but I don't know whether that was actually done in the 15th century for sure.
No, a lot of people do assume. In fact, for many years, what is definitely is certain is that the altar wind played from a bass dance tenor, and they would improvise around that. What is very unclear as to whether they actually played for the dancing. And in my experience, it can be just so overwhelming that the dancers get completely lost in this sound. The dynamic is wrong. So and there is no convincing evidence, except that you do get them playing for dancing. And as I say, it's either outside. They're probably jigging about to saltarelli or pivas out in the market square or something. That would be my image, but we don't have any firm evidence.
Shawms work well in a large hall with lots of dancers.
Yeah, that's the other thing is, did you have lots of dancers, or was the bass dance just one couple at a time? And the general feeling is that it was probably just one couple at a time. But again, it's quite difficult to pin down hard evidence for that.
Well, when we're playing for dancers, it's usually either in a large pavilion outdoors or in a large live hall.
Yeah.
And which makes, even if there's only one couple dancing, can make it difficult to hear if you're using ba instruments. So,
Yes,
yeah, we do tend to do most of the things either on shawms or on pipes and tabor because they carry.
Yeah, I think you could. It's quite difficult to. I mean, a lot of people assume from the illustrations, and you get very, very frequently illustrations of an altar ensemble with people who look as though they are dancing, but it's very difficult to distinguish between that and, say, some grand entrance, or whether it's a composite picture showing the loud wind playing for some grand occasion mixed in with an illustration of the dance. So they're images which are not necessarily co-located in time, something like that. So it's difficult to find really hard sound evidence for it. I'd love
Apropos not much. By 2 days we've missed the anniversary of the Bal des Ardents.
2 days ago.
2 days ago,
we
when
did.
when the prince and his men dressed up like woodwoses and someone set them all on fire.
Yeah, yeah, yes. Where was that now?
I believe
Somewhere in France.
it was in France, because I remember it was a spectacle that the woodwoses were all chained together to do some sort of dance.
The court of Charles VI.
Yes. And somebody held up a torch to see whether he recognized one of them, and their costumes were all made of pitch and tar and
They all caught alight.
Oh.
Oh yes, yes.
And they were chained together, which made it hard to get them.
fortunately one of the
Very
ladies
famous.
of the court recognized the Dauphin and,
recognized-
grabbed
yeah.
him and smothered the flames under her cloak,
Yeah, but
but the other ones all died.
the rest came to a very sorry end. Yes, we have trouble getting permission to reenact that one as much as we would like to.
You too, huh?
Yeah, it would make a good show actually. Tell you what, I the image I can imagine, I can sort of visualize the illustration of that. Is there a band in that picture? It's of the green, the men dressed as wild men, isn't it? The
I don't
dancers.
recall seeing a band depicted in the picture in that contemporary illustration.
Right, no.
I don't remember if I saw. I think it focused on the men being on fire and trying to be
Certainly, there are the actual accounts, the text accounts of the occasion, and I don't think musicians are actually mentioned. That would be quite interesting to know.
Yeah.
Whether the pipe and tabor player was caught up in the conflagration.
There it is.
There we are. There we are. Now, that chap at the back there. No, he's holding. Oh, hang on. The band is there. It's up there in the right, and it's a band of shawm.
Oh, there they are.
Yeah. Okay. So this would have been, I would imagine, quite a noisy dance. It's certainly not a bass dance, and in those circumstances, I would have thought a loud wind band would be very appropriate to accompany it. Curious that they're still playing. Actually, I don't think they're taking any notice of what's going on at all. Yes, famous one. Right. Okay.
Charles VI was a bit touched in the head, I think, in many ways.
Yeah.
Hey, could I make a little recommendation? I got this book a while ago. I don't know if anybody has heard about it. It's Indiana University Press. It's called The Eloquent Body, Dance and Humanist Culture in 15th Century Italy.
Yeah, that's Jennifer Neville's book, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
a
very,
real
very good.
eye-opener.
It is good. There's some very interesting material in there. Yes, Jennifer's giving the sort of plug. The Early Dance Circle is having an annual lecture in February. When is it? February? Yes. She will be. There will be some publicity on the Early Dance Circle's website. She is actually going to talk about various disasters that have happened to dancers in the Renaissance period, and I think this is actually one that she mentioned was the great conflagration there. So it does promise to be a very interesting subject. So if you
I think it's the 21st.
we think it's the 23rd. It will be on.
First. It's a Sunday morning at 10 a.m.
On local time, UK, Sunday morning, 10 a.m., 21st of February.
I think.
We
She's
think.
speaking from Australia.
Because she's speaking from Australia. So she will be able to give us the lowdown on all of that, because it's been a subject of her considerable interest. I probably I mean, while she was writing the book, but I think she knows a lot more than perhaps went into the book itself. That's great. What a measure of time? What kind of having one rhythm per note per tenor. Steve's one rhythm per note of tenor. There was a thing. Yeah, Steve's got a note. Rhythm patterns per note of tenor. The other form of varying it, I mean, you have to do the diminutions and the linking parts, but also you can vary the taboring by including hemiolas, and hemiolas are a very nice way of characterizing the phrasing. I didn't try putting in any because it wouldn't go well over Zoom in any case. But there's a lot you can do with varied taboring, but of course you have to keep the same basic rhythm going, but throwing in the occasional hemiola.
Would you be able to just demonstrate what you mean by that?
Yeah, things like this. So you're going along with. If I do it with a pipe, might at the end of a musical phrase, if you throw in a hemiola, it kind of phrases the music quite nicely. So that would be one way of using it. Otherwise, I tend to keep that same rhythm. It'll throw the dancers out if you make too many.
No, what I meant was playing the drum pattern at the tempo you were doing, but playing the melody twice as fast as you were doing. So there's only one note per.
Right. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Then you have to play it twice to get the dance in. Is that?
I don't think so.
I'd
have to look at how the steps line up with the notes.
Yeah,
that's the way I really think of.
It is possible, and in a way, it makes for a more interesting tune. But you have to be careful that the dancers aren't completely left behind. But yes, you can. It has been suggested that was the intended way to play it. That you go through the whole brass dance and then repeat it, because there's no synchronization, there's no phrase synchronization between what the dancers are doing and what the musicians are doing. So you could actually do it that way. But generally now, I think it's assumed that it was just one. What do we say? One. Is it one long note to every step, except with arbo, when you've got several long notes, you've got actually 4 long beats to every step. But one note is that's one note. Okay. I think most of the documents certainly on the Basse dance are fairly clear about that. It's less clear from Toulouse or the Brussels book exactly how that would go. But again, there's no indication that the Basse dance repeats as you would need to do if you play it with a much more the music running at twice the tempo. Okay.
Aha. Do we have any more questions? Oh yes, Atsu's got a question.
I just missed it, but about the difference between Basse dance and Piva.
Yeah.
Piva is two times faster than Basse dance, you told me.
Piva.
Is there any source of reference?
Is there any reason for it?
Reference.
A reference. Oh, right. Yes, lots. Mostly in the Italian sources, and Guglielmo will have that. And of course, Barbara Sparty's book on Guglielmo Abreu will have that clearly stated that the Basse dance goes at half the speed of the piva. So we have to, and it goes right back to Domenico, where they were quite explicit about the relative tempi, although they were explicit in the text, actually turning it into manageable practice with the tabor is a slightly different question, but the top and the bottom, the piva and the bass dance, the close relationship, the fact that one is twice the speed of the other is suggested quite frequently there.
Aha, do we have any more questions for Bill? Yes, Terry. Terry, you need to unmute. Can't hear you, Terry.
I can't see. Oh, there. Terry?
Still can't hear you, Terry.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Okay. I was just wondering what was characteristic of the Saltarello and how's that fit into the scheme of things?
Oh, right. Saltarello, I didn't actually speak much about Saltarello, except Saltarello appears in the middle of that first first ballo. After the Basse danza, there is a section of Saltarello followed by a short section of piva. Saltarello is not as fast as piva, but definitely faster than Basse dance. But it can often be played with the same sort of rhythm, but it's a triple. But it's probably, that's actually slightly faster than it ought to go, I think. So it's not piva. But they're both triple time. One is, Saltarello essentially 6/8. Piva, well, it's likewise a 6/8, but much faster. And again,
what there is you use with the drum with the Saltarello?
Well, it's almost slow enough so that you could do diddly diddly dum, diddly diddly dum, one diddly diddly diddly. No, you can't easily. I would normally go. But yeah.
Now, could I just say, I just butt in and say, I thought that you could do Saltarello in quaternario time, in duple time, or Saltarello, which is the real Saltarello, in Basse danza time.
Yeah.
In real triple.
Also true. Saltarello is both a term for a tempo and a term for a step, and the Saltarello can be done in either of a couple of different tempos.
Yeah.
And I think the true rhythm was the triple one, the Basse danza rhythm.
I think what I didn't want to get into is the whole in principle, and the books do say this. Domenico says this. You should be able to. The skilled dancer can dance any step in any tempo. So you could dance the Saltarello in Basse danza or in quaternaria. You could dance. Can you dance piva in Basse danza tempo? I don't think so. I mean, there's some things that are a little bit ludicrous, but basically you could use the same step and rhythm, the same step, but dance it to a completely different rhythm. So the Saltarello has a very characteristic step form, and you could dance that to a Basse danza rhythm. It would be much slower, and it would look very different. Is that right?
It's not much slower.
No, it's not. It's not that much slower.
I've heard it played to that Basse dance rhythm, but in 6/8. which is the same rhythm, isn't it? But in 6/8.
Where I'm going. Yeah, that would work actually. I'd have to practice that one to get my head around and play the actual 5/10. But yes, you're quite right. That rhythm would work. Yeah.
I wanted to say, I know we get very technical and explaining the notation of the rhythms and such, but I really appreciated Carles for the way he taught us the pavon, and he taught us the forms by making us dance the forms. And dance itself is such a deep sense of pulse that I think it gives authenticity. And I'm glad we focus some on dance and on the connection between the pulse and not just notes and ascribed rhythms, but the real pulse. Because the saltarell, don't you jump? So you have to be able to jump. And like Morris dancers, you have to follow the footfall. So I think it's great that you guys focus this way. It's not to be nerdy, but it's essential. The rhythm is the essential part.
Yes, you're quite right. I mean, it's one thing playing. I mean, that just happened with the saltarello. But if you're playing that and somebody is dancing, your sense of rhythmic engagement is much greater, and that's how it should be. Basically, it was a dance. It was a jumping dance, and it was although it was quite precisely the step rhythms are quite precise. And also there are subtle things in the dance that the dancer can do hemiola, and you even get accounts where the dancers are trying to throw the musicians off track by throwing in alternative rhythms. Conversely, the musicians like to throw the dancers off track by throwing in alternative rhythms, hemiolas or something like that, but not losing the basic. I guess it's the tactus has got to be there all the way through. So yeah, important.
My sort of take on that is that having done these workshops that you've been doing in particular, Bill, it would be really interesting to have another summer school with Carles, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah. Yes, Carles is very.
With a bigger group of people, dancers and musicians, because he is such an enormous font of knowledge on the dance as well as the playing, and that I always find that completely inspirational. I've been to workshops with him in Catalonia, where it is a seamless thing from the dance to the musician, and you get a sense of that tradition that went back in learning how to play, because he describes the way he learnt as something that went back a long way about dancing and playing at the same time. Yeah, lovely stuff. It's just coming up to 1:30.
Yes.
Some of us have got another thing to go to. The Morris Federation talk. Tonight, oops, I've lost my picture. Here we go. Sorry. Tonight, I hope everybody comes and joins us on YouTube for the concert. And I think I'm the only person who's seen the concert so far, and has seen all the bits of it. And we've thoroughly enjoyed all this. So do come along. There's 2 different links. They're on the website, and we can put them up on the Facebook as well. There's 2 different links, and for the first part at 7:30 UK time. The next part is at 8 o'clock. There's a sort of a 10-minute gap, or less than that, I think, 8-minute gap between the 2. I suggest that you don't put it on full screen, but put it on normal screen so you can use the chat down the side and really make it a live event, because that's great fun. And also, why not have the Pipe and Tabor page open on Facebook and flip to that as well, so that you can add to the live experience. It's going to be, you would want to try and build up some of that sort of feeling of being in the Winter Warmer Festival.
Brilliant. I think that's great. Excellent. Yeah, so it's going to be awesome. Yeah, and a big thank you actually to everyone who's contributed music as well. It's just amazing. Amazing stuff that we have.
Thanks for all your participation. I mean, it's very difficult playing dance music when there's no dancers, and so it's but I hope it was a useful sort of introduction to some of the trials and tribulations of interpreting Basse.
Yeah, can we give Bill a big round of applause? Hooray!
Hey.
Okay.
Right, so see you all on YouTube for the concert. Ha ha ha.
Okay. Farewell.
And anybody, and don't forget the session tomorrow, which will be great fun.
Gosh,
Right.
Practice my tune. Thanks.
Sorry I missed you, folks.
Yeah, you just arrived at the last few minutes, didn't you?
It's unfortunately technical problems, but I've just fitted a new camera.
Oh, marvelous!
Hopefully that will make things a bit better.
Yeah, we had a problem. Gillian and Robert had a problem. They fitted a new camera, and it really just was not playing game. But then suddenly it all seems to have worked now, and they when they go onto that camera, it all runs as well. What camera did you get, Clive?
I got a Logitech C922.
Right. Okay. Yeah, those Logitech ones usually are quite good. Sometimes are you running Windows 10? Windows 10. So yeah. Windows 10 has all the camera drivers built into it, so it should work okay. But there can be an issue if you have so in an upgrade in Windows not long ago. Several people, a lot of people around the world lost part of those drivers.
Oh.
So the workaround on that to re-establish that is not straightforward. I had to go into the command settings to get it to basically reload the drivers from the system.
So far, so good. I just took it out of the box and plugged it in,
and it worked.
It's working at the moment. So
yeah, it's looking good. It's sounding good.
Oh, but the big problem with the last one, which is also Logitech but about 10 years old, was that whenever I tried to speak, there was such a lag that I couldn't get a word in. So
right, yeah.
Now I'm afraid you're going to have to mute me if you don't want me to speak. Anyway, I should look forward to seeing you in a few minutes' time.
Yeah, okay. Oh, there was something I was going to say, Clive. I think we've got a good opportunity with the work that you've done on the Morris Taborers to start putting together a resource online about Morris Taboring. I think it's when I look at what they do in the Basque Country and in Catalonia, they've done a lot of historical research on their dance musicians. There's a fantastic amount of dance information about the musicians for bal de bastons, which is the stick dances that are like Morris, and the people who played it. And I I worked for EFDSS a good few years ago, 15 years ago, on the forerunner of the full English project.
Right.
You know, the whole business of not just getting the manuscripts online, but getting PDFs, usable stuff, because Cecil Sharp's manuscripts are really hard to understand. Whereas, you know, bringing that stuff together into a format where people can use it. And then I went on to work on a proposal to get all of the Gloucestershire music online from all the different manuscript resources, but to make it available in ways that, you know, is better than just the manuscripts or the field recordings. And in the process of doing that, we did a lot of work also to get the musicians and the singers, the sources, online, and the collectors. So I don't know whether you're aware of the Glosstrad website.
No, sorry.
Glosstrad.com. Go and have a look at it. Because I think we would do the pipe and tabor a great deal of benefit by you know, raising the knowledge, the visibility of Morris taboring over the years.
Well, sorry, carry on.
No. I was going to say, you know, Matt Simons,
yeah,
Holly's brother. So Matt and I have really been talking a lot about this, about getting the story of Morris taboring up there, out of the closet, well, out of the dusty files.
As you'll know from the stuff I've sent around from time to time, there does seem to be quite a lot of reticence within the Morris Taborers community. I've had very, very little positive response in terms of contributions when you think about the number of people who have actually declared themselves. So I think what it would need, if you're looking to source resources from amongst that registry mob, directory mob, I beg your pardon, there's going to have to be some fairly strong sort of leadership and twisting of arms and whatever else, and maybe some competitive element to get people engaged. I don't think I'm the right sort of person to do that. I mean, I do, but clearly my words haven't stimulated people into frantic action yet, so no chance that they would.
no, but what you've done has been amazing, and you're building a resource there that is incredible anyway, and a good starting point. I think with Matt, we can look at the earlier people, right?
Yeah.
And start getting that story out there and start building it. And then when people see the quality and what it's about, I think they'll join in.
That's right.
I think the issue is that a lot of the people are possibly generally older and not really of the social media scene or anything like that, and you know, have fears about being seen on the telly that is the computer. So I think developing that would be a good good thing. So Matt and I have been talking about this, and we're looking at ways of doing it, and we're really looking at the early taborers at the moment. But you know, I'm really aware that, you know, I was taught by amazing taborers who had who were very influential. Mike Chandler's still here, you know, and Mike is not of the the social media generation. However, he is a good old friend of mine, family friend from, you know, my uncle was joined Barclays in the same intake as him, as the youngest ever bank managers they became in the country of any bank, and he lived in the next village to me. So, you know, I've known Mike all this time, and I think he's got a significant amount to give. He's already done some oral history work, and Matt and I were planning to go and see him last year before all that was stopped. So that kind of thing is important. Ollie's working on a couple of other big things at the moment, but we have this as a project, and I think we probably need to build a team, that helps find the stuff, and particularly see if we can find old bits of video of people and
yeah. Well, I can put out another appeal via the directory and see if we can't stimulate a bit more. There is some stuff already in the depository that you can access. As far as data protection is concerned, I took care when I set it up to make sure that everybody was aware that things could go online and to give their permission for that. So it only needs to confirm that that's what we're doing, and then we shouldn't have to seek any further permissions. Going back to Mike, I'm a close friend of Mike's too, and I'm in regular contact, fairly frequent contact with him. So if it's a case of sort of squeezing him gently to get information out of him, I'll happily do that.
Yeah, that's jolly good. I mean, I'm long overdue going to see him. Last time I saw him was, I don't know, not long before Christmas in 2019, and I actually videoed him as well playing, and it was lovely to get together actually, and it was at an event to celebrate a fellow taborer that was a great influence on both of us. And we discussed this sort of thing. So I think he's aware of this, and I mean there has been oral history work done with him, but not specifically from the taboring point of view. No. So Ollie and I, thought, well, because I've got qualifications in oral history and done work for the British Library and other oral history collections. So we've got a bit of work to do there, but I think it's an important thing, in particular with Mike. But we might be too late for Bert Cleaver.
Oh, I'm sure we are. I mean,
Bert still goes out with the Greensleeves and things, but he's not. He's losing it all the time.
We never did get a response from him or his family over the honorary membership, did we?
He's very proud wearer of the badge.
Oh, is he? Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So when so I've got several friends who are Greensleeves members, and they go and pick him up and take him out to the practices and in the pub afterwards, and he proudly wears his badge.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad.
Yeah. But I do think that actually what we should be doing is giving a gold badge. It actually has that sort of prestige thing. Mike was quite happy to get his badge, but I think if we'd have given him a gold badge, he would have told people about it. It's a bit like getting the EFTAS gold badge. People are really proud of that and things. So I think, and it wouldn't be difficult to do because these badges are designed to be made out of metal. It's an easy process.
Well, the question I suppose then is it to be given as an incentive or a reward or a
recognition? Of
course, a recognition, but in terms of relating that to squeezing information and contribution out of
right.
It's at the moment, as you know, with Sally's situation, Mike is right up to his neck.
Yeah.
He doesn't have time for anything. He hasn't practiced the pipe and tabor, I think, for 8 months.
No.
He's just, essentially he's switched off from Morris, apart from an occasional course from me and John Bush, maybe one or two others. but he doesn't get engaged anymore. And
No.
it's not going to change until either Sally goes or they're both inoculated and he can get people in to look after her again. So I think that the best way to approach him at the moment, I would suggest, is over the phone and very gently edge around to the idea of him having a series of chats where he can perhaps have some questions addressed to him and make it interactive so that, you know, he feels he can ask things too. And then maybe we'll get a story out of him.
Yeah, yeah. So Matt and I have got to have a chat because, you know, we've sort of like put off our project for the moment. And Matt has got another huge project, which is sort of related. But it is, yeah, well, it is very much related, and it goes back a long way. So, you know, it's something we need to really sort of think about over the next few months, and then hopefully as the COVID situation and the like sorts out, and we'll be in a better position. Anyway, I've got to get something to eat because I'm going to the Morris Fed talk with Jameson.
There. Okay, see you there.
Okay, good to see you. Good to see you. See you tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, possibly. Yeah.